Seer is the third most picked legend in master lobbies and above, but when you take a step back and look at the whole picture, Seer is only the 9th most picked legend, falling far behind Bloodhound at 5th place. And why is that? I asked my viewers why they don't play Seer instead of Bloodhound or almost any other legend, and the answers that I got varied. Some said that people don't play Seer because he's too taxing, he takes too much effort to look around. I heard that his passive is too hard to understand early on, and casuals mostly use his tactical like a Bloodhound, and that ends up being useless for their fights. Verno said that while he is insane, he isn't fun, and I saw a lot more responses like that. Some other people said that he needs a team to be good, and playing Seer as a solo player doesn't work. Someone just said he didn't have the legend tokens, and a very common theme was that he didn't have movement abilities. But the thing is, as good or as wild as this reasoning seems, pros and predators abuse Seer in ranked and in competitive for a very good reason. If you want to pick a great, high impact legend and win more games, keep watching. If we put Seer up against any other scan legend like Bloodhound, he does everything Bloodhound does, but for the better. Seer's passive is much better at tracking enemies at all times, and it is effectively a wall hack. His tactical, the active scan, is infinitely better as it not only scans for 8 seconds instead of Bloodhound's 3, but it also shows the enemy's health bars, cancels healing and channeling actions, and silences their abilities for 1.25 seconds. The only thing that could be up for contention would be Seer's versus Bloodhound's ultimate, as Seer's ultimate is more defensive, giving its entire team wall hack on any enemies that move around within a zone, and Bloodhound's is more aggressive, allowing Bloodhound to scan faster, more frequently, move faster, and see through smokes, but high-level players seem to unanimously agree that Seer is overall just better. Seer's passive is perfect for so many uses. You can use it when running around to spot rats or teams before you even hear them. You can also use it to locate where an enemy is about to peek from, so you can pre-aim that angle, or even just spin around like a radar dish after a fight to make sure that there aren't any third parties coming in. Having a Seer on your team will mean free kill points as well, since it's much easier to find any rats who might have been able to stay away from you otherwise. And besides being a clear upgrade to Bloodhound's scan, Seer's tactical is a great tool to keep the pressure up on your enemies. Let me explain. If you get a crack, a knock, or just enough damage to where the enemy is forced to duck behind cover, you can scan them with your tactical to cancel their heal and reveal them as you are moving up, turning them into easy kills and losing out on that second of space that they would have otherwise. As the ultimate has such a low cooldown, a well-placed exhibit can ensure that your team has full information on the enemy team's whereabouts at any point during a fight. To make things better, if you manage to clean up the enemy team before the 30 seconds are up, the ultimate acts sort of like an alarm, as it will reveal any other team who happens to enter its radius. Thing is, when Seer was released, he was released in an absolutely too broken of a state back in Season 10 and received enormous nerfs just to bring him back in line. Many players thought that these aggressive nerfs made him useless and as such moved on to other legends, but some ranked grinders and later pro teams found the value from his kit in an aggressive anti-bunker playstyle, running him coupled with a mad Maggie, and suddenly his pick rate started picking up. In the second half of Season 13, Seer was a must pick in ranked, seeing twice as much play compared to the start of Season 13, going from a 2% to a 4.8% overall pick rate at his peak. And the thing is, he hasn't received any buffs or nerfs, he just found his place in the meta. But despite that, he's never seen an increase past that 4.8% mark. Any player at a higher level can tell you, Seer is just too strong, and the high level Apex community was advocating for nerfs around the time in Season 13, but seeing as it was the end of the season, nobody was really surprised when we didn't see any changes with the release of Season 14. But here's the kicker, once Season 15 came around, we still didn't see any changes to him, to the detriment of most of the professional Apex community. So you, dear viewer, might have an opportunity here, because there's an odd chance that Respawn hasn't touched Seer simply because his overall pick rate is so low. So if you're watching this video and you take my advice to heart, this can mean two things. Either this video doesn't reach enough people, which gives you guys watching this video a chance to abuse him for an undisclosed amount of time, or it pops off, everyone starts playing him, and he finally gets nerfed, hopefully putting a dent in the oppressive scan meta. Either way, my viewers get an advantage, or they fix Seer, which is a win-win, and I get to feel like I helped out in some way. Seer takes a supportive role and plays in the back of his team, providing scans and utility in the form of his tactical should he or his teammates get an entry, stopping the full reset from the enemy team. No other legend can do it to this nth degree, and coordinated teams see the value, which is why he's so common in the highest levels play. You want to continue scanning with your passive as you're running around to keep an eye on any teams around you within 75 meters in any direction. As I slide cancel around, I usually do it mid-slide, as this way I won't lose out on any run or rotation speed. As I mentioned early, you also want to do the occasional 360-degree scan to make sure nobody's around you, especially after finishing a fight. I cannot stress this enough. The passive scan is a little harder to aim with than at release, so you have to aim where you think enemies will be at. It does help if you just spin your aim around to cover more ground. His tactical is the most misused, and I think one of the main reasons he's not really used that much in most facets of play. Most players use seer scan like bloodhounds, meaning when they initiate a fight. Instead, they should be communicating the enemy team's whereabouts with pings or voice chat, and then use the tactical once there's enough damage on one target, as this will cancel their heals and will make them incredibly vulnerable to be pushed. As for his ultimate, you want to throw it down the second a fight starts and you know where you want to fight. There's no point in deploying your ultimate if the enemy team just backs off anyways. Make sure to throw it where it can't be seen from the enemy team in front of you, ideally in a position that's hard to reach even if another team runs up behind you. Try to place it within some building, behind some cover, anything. The more exposed it is, the higher the risk is that it will be destroyed. You'll notice just how much easier a fight gets when you have scans. You know exactly where the enemies are, and you and your team will be able to adapt to anything that they try. Smarter teams know better than to fight inside of Seer's ultimate, but sometimes they are going to be forced to commit. Keep in mind that Seer's ultimate is very visible, and you can see it from across the whole map, so it will give you away and invite third parties even outside of gunshot audio range. It goes without saying that ending the fight as soon as possible is ideal, especially since the ultimate will warn you if another team ends up entering its range as long as it's up, and if a fight goes on for too long, it'll go down. This makes Seer the perfect pick for playing aggressively, but he is still completely viable in a defensive composition. For starters, having a Seer will cancel out the enemy team having the Seer advantage, but his entire kit is not only incredibly useful to siege enemy teams, but it's just as good to either stall out fights or have a full picture whenever you get into one. If you have legends such as Caustic in your roster, you can combine your ultimate or tactical with the smoke or gas to have full vision on any enemy teams that end up getting trapped inside of it. But keep in mind, he's definitely not the pick if you are a solo queuing player. While you can see some success with him, the power of his kit is unlocked with like-minded players who you are in a voice chat with, as this allows you to communicate the information that you have without having to put your very powerful tactical on a long cooldown. In conclusion, people who use other supportive legends think Seer is just too difficult to play. They don't think he's fun, or they just don't know that he's a viable option. So hopefully this video will give you a good idea of how he can be used, so you too can dominate your games with this incredibly strong pick. And hopefully Respawn will see just how strong he is, and finally give him the nerf that he's needed for a long time now. If I sold you on playing Seer, check out the video on the screen for a full tutorial. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all tomorrow.